So depending on when you grew up as a gamer, you may or may not have a ton of nostalgia for some classic 2D games in addition to 3D releases that we see hit platforms like the Nintendo Switch. And in this console generation we find ourselves in with the Switch, it really does a good job, in my personal opinion, on delivering a best of both worlds experience. We got Metroid Dread released on the platform, then Metroid Prime Remaster, a perfect example of a franchise that transitioned from 2D to 3D very nicely. We also have games like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which delivers that classic 2D Mario experience, in addition to games like Mario Maker 2 that have done really well on the platform and kind of prove that there is still a market for those games alongside of their big major AAA 3D releases like Super Mario Odyssey. Well, recently we got the announcement that Sega will be doing the same thing with Sonic going forward, as we now have Sonic Superstars officially slated for the Nintendo Switch later this year in the fall. And that is following up last year's release of Sonic Frontiers, which is their new groundwork for the 3D Sonic era. And in today's video, I want to boot up one of my favorite classic 2D Sonic games and really have a broad discussion of where the market now sits in gaming when it comes to 2D versus 3D experiences, and whether or not we should be expecting more 2D releases to coincide alongside of the push to major 3D games when it comes to new Nintendo Switch game releases and even next gen Nintendo game releases going forward. What's up, nation? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you haven't already. And as mentioned, guys, today we're going to be having a broad conversation around 2D and 3D game experiences in the modern era that we find ourselves in with the Switch, while playing one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time, which is none other than Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And of course, this game has interesting release history behind it, because if you grew up in the Genesis era, you probably played Sonic 3 separate, and then you played Sonic and Knuckles as a different cartridge release. There's a whole story behind that. We won't be diving into that today. Anyway, I do think that in light of the recent announcement that Sonic Superstars will be coming to the Nintendo Switch later this fall, that it's an extremely exciting time for 2D games, because it kind of got me thinking, we don't really know if Mario 2D will be doing anything anytime soon. I would expect to hear something, maybe even something like around the holiday season, because I don't know that Nintendo wants to bring out 3D Mario before the next gen console at this point with where we're at in the Switch, which would signify maybe we get 2D to hold us over in the meantime. I'm here for it personally. I'm also extremely hyped for Sonic Superstars. That was actually my most enjoyed announcement from Summer Games Fest. In addition to Prince of Persia, also looks great. Also a 2D type of experience. Interestingly, you'll see some gamers online mention that, oh, 2D, that doesn't justify the cost. And, I can't believe their game developers are doing 2D games and things like that still. I don't feel like that at all, and I feel like there's actually enough of a market of people who grew up in that SNES, Sega Genesis era that really enjoy 2D games alongside of 3D experiences. And whenever you keep in mind that the Nintendo Switch is also kind of replacing Nintendo's handheld consoles altogether, in addition to being their current home platform, I think it makes more sense than ever to have 2D games live alongside 3D games, because we used to be in an environment where we would get these smaller supplemental 2D releases. We'll go ahead and get the fire. In addition to the mainline 3D ones that were on home consoles. And I think that now is a perfect time with a hybrid console like the Switch, more so than ever, to fully support both of them. So I'm personally a big fan of an announcement like Sonic Superstars. It very much feels like it is Sega's attempt at the new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe format, where you can play with friends, you can play singular, and I've even been reading reports online, new information around the game with hands-on demo plays that actually happened at Summer Games Fest, that people are saying it feels like Sonic the Hedgehog 5, and they're saying that in a very positive way. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 did not really land that well with fans, and I played part 1 briefly, but they did it like episodic releases, and it was kind of weird. They are actually doing the original, not only like sound composer from Sonic 3, bringing him back to this game, but the actual original team that developed the first Sonic games that we are playing through today with Sonic Origins. That team is the one that will be developing this game, and director and everything, as opposed to they would have originally intended to go with the Sonic Mania team, which, to be fair, they are fantastic. I think Sonic Mania was up until this Origins collection, that was what got me back into 2D Sonic again. And I think that that would have been an excellent choice as well. But for whatever reason, that fell through. So we now find ourselves in an environment where the original Sonic team will be returning for Sonic Superstars. And everybody's saying incredibly positive things about this game so far right now. So for me personally, I think the 2D era very well may be in its heyday in addition to the 3D era. I super enjoyed Metroid Dread. And then we got to play Metroid Prime Remaster not that long after. So I think it's a very exciting time if you have nostalgia for these 2D style games. And it doesn't seem like they will be slowing down, providing they sell well. At the end of the day, if it's financially viable for businesses to continue to pump these out alongside of 3D releases, it will happen. And I do think that that's actually very promising to see a new Sonic announcement like that, because now we have essentially oh, wait a minute. Oh, we are still going. I hate whenever we back up. Okay, let's see if we can fix this here. Yeah, now we're good. So we are essentially, of course, the perfect completely distracted me and I thought I was done for some reason. Anyway, all that aside, I will say that I think that we could still see a heyday for 2D games to return if they sell well. And I don't think that Mario will slow down. I don't think that Sonic will slow down. And now in between, when we wait for things like the next Sonic Frontiers, which I still think that Sonic Frontiers it feels like a first game in a new formula for Sega, which that is what it is. They've even said that in interviews and things. It feels like a step one, but I think they can continue to improve upon that formula and really make it close to a 3D Mario level experience in the future, if done right. And then I think that we're in an environment where now, if they keep the Sonic Superstars going alongside of Sonic Frontiers type games, and then we have Mario coming out with 2D releases in addition to 3D ones, we're going to be eating good as gamers, especially if you have nostalgia for these classic titles, because then you get to rotate in between the 3D installments and the 2D installments, and you don't have to wait so long for each one, because we see games like Legend of Zelda being another one that I hope gets a similar treatment. We see 6-year plus development time for Tears of the Kingdom, the longest ever so far in a mainline Zelda. I don't think that development times are going to get any shorter. In fact, if anything, they may even get longer because of what developers are trying to accomplish with each like mainline contribution to these classic franchises, Zelda being one of those that they always want to outdo themselves and step up what is possible in each game. So who knows how long we're going to be waiting for the next mainline Zelda game, at which point, as a gamer, I would love to have a more simple, original 2D style or top-down Zelda in the meantime. You know, I will pick that up day one and thoroughly enjoy it. The last one being A Link Between Worlds, actually, the last like new Zelda experience that we got that's kind of in that 2D setting, even though it's like kind of partly a remake of A Link to the Past, it's still original in its own right. Anyway, I would love to see games like that developed alongside of mainline 3D Zelda ones, in addition to ports and remasters, and maybe even just 3D traditional style Zelda games that aren't open world, that won't take so long. You know, something that takes a couple years or 3 years development time. Have Grezzo and your different support Zelda teams work on it, as opposed to having just one major release every 6 to 7 years. It's just not enough for a franchise, in my personal opinion. And so anyway, all of that said, I actually do think that Sonic games with Sonic Superstars getting announced is great news. I think that Mario gets something soon. We have Metroid getting the same treatment, and potentially the Zelda team one day. So it's a great time to be a 2D gamer. I don't think this stops anytime soon, as long as the sales are there. As mentioned, we will likely see the next generation console also have 2D variants and 3D variants of our favorite beloved franchise. And I think that in an era where development time is clearly skyrocketing, it makes more sense now than ever to rely on that. So that's my personal take on it. I wanted a reason to boot up some classic Sonic while I'm getting hyped up for Sonic Superstars. I will absolutely be playing that and probably doing some kind of review video on it around that game's release. So I'm very hyped for it personally, and we died. It's probably a good sign to stop here, but I'm personally very hyped for it. I'll be picking it up day one. I'm going to support the 2D games. I would love to hear from you guys on whether or not you feel the same and you like to see more 2D games, or if you do think that this is a past era in gaming and really shouldn't be a focal point for any of these developers, which that's definitely not how I feel, but I can see how some people would. And if you do feel that way, explain why. So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.